It's you.
You trying to blame somebody else.
So I'm not. Need a few minutes.
You need a minute?
A minute, yeah.
It's okay, put your recorder down, it's all good.
It's you.
Just so you guys know we're live streaming, okay?
So I'm not. Need a few minutes.
You need a minute?
A minute.
It's okay, put your recorder down, it's all good. Just so you guys know we're live streaming, okay?
So I'm not.
You need a minute? It's okay, put your recorder down, it's all good. Just so you guys know we're live streaming, okay? You need a minute? Okay, we good to go? Almost. Okay. Thanks for coming down. I'm Constable Steve Addison. My last name is Addison, and I work for the Media Relations Unit here at the Vancouver Police Department. A few things to update you on today. I'll start with an update on our latest homicide investigation. Okay. Vancouver Police have arrested a 36-year-old Vancouver man for the murder of longtime businessman John Leslie McIver. A few things to update you on today. I'll start with an update on our latest homicide Mr. McIver's business Vancouver Police have arrested 26 after family member for the murder there of a longtime businessman John. A second-degree murder charge is now being approved by Crown Counsel against Ryan Roger Holt, who is a Vancouver resident. And Mr. Holt has been remanded until his next court hearing for the murder there. There's not a lot I'm going to be able to. A second-degree murder charge is now being approved by Crown Counsel, as I've already told you. Just out of respect for the integrity of the investigation and the ongoing court process. However, we're still looking to speak to anybody who has any information about this offense. Anybody that we've not yet spoken to is asked just out of respect for the integrity of the investigation and the ongoing court process. I can try to answer any questions you have, but as I said, there's not much that anybody to be able to say information about this. You try. Anybody that we've not yet spoken to is asked just out of respect for the integrity. Yes, so Mr. Holt was a former employee of the business. I can try to answer any questions you have, but as I said, there's not a former employee. There's not much that anybody to be able to say information about this. Mr. Holt was a former employee of the business. I don't know. Yes, I don't have any information beyond that. Was a former employee of, and that would be a presumption of former employee. There's not much that anybody to be able to say information about this. Mr. Holt was a former employee of the business. I don't know. Thanks, folks. Yes, I don't have any information beyond that. Moving on, I'm going to talk about our regular summer counterattack traffic enforcement. We are reminding residents of the city and anybody visiting the city about that Vancouver Police are out in full force, keeping the roads safe, conducting counterattack. We are through the summer months. Just this past weekend, visiting the city, a number of police officers out. Those police officers are out in stopped full 350 drivers who received conducting counterattack. Let me correct. We are through this past weekend. We had police officers out on counterattack roadblocks. 350 drivers received those police roadside drug and alcohol tests. That resulted in 44 license suspensions and 35 vehicle impoundments past weekend for drug and alcohol impairment. 350 drivers received. We just want to remind everybody there's no excuse for driving while you're drunk, 44 or impaired, driving while you're stoned. Make a plan before you leave home to get home safely. Our job is to keep the roads safe. We just want to remind everybody there's no excuse for legal means at our disposal to do so. And we're going to be out throughout the summer targeting to get home safely impaired drivers. Our job and taking them off the road. So if you think it's worth the gamble, it's not. Plan a ride, get a designated driver, plan for a taxi, jump on a bus. Just don't get behind the wheel if you've been targeting, doing drugs, or impaired driver. Our job and taking them off the road. So does anybody have any questions on that? Gamble, it's not. Plan a ride, get a designated driver, plan for a taxi, jump on a bus. Just don't get behind the wheel if you've you know, doing drugs or impaired drivers. Our job and taking them off. Habits are hard to change. Have any questions on? I think that attitudes have changed significantly over the years. From when we were all much younger. Don't get behind the wheel if you've been. You know, people do understand that it is unacceptable, and habits are hard to change. Have any questions? I think that there's a possibility, a chance, good chance. Attitudes have changed significantly. If they try and drive over the years, from when we were all, whether by drugs or alcohol, that they're going to get caught. Unfortunately, there still are people who unacceptable and habits are hard to change. Think they can chance it. Who think that they're going to be able to. Who think they're going to be able to get home and avoid the police. And what I want everybody to know is that we're out there. Unfortunately, there still are people who we're doing everything we can to keep the roads safe. It's our responsibility and our duty to do that. Who think that they're going to be able to. Impaired driving is still one of the. Who think they're going to be able to get home and avoid the police. Causes of what I want everybody to know is that we're out there. And we need to. We're doing to prevent that. Everybody has a role to play in that. Everybody has a responsibility to do that. This is our responsibility, and we need everybody in the community to step up. So that means if you see an impaired driver, call us. Call 911 right away. Somebody you suspect is an impaired driver, call us. If somebody's had a few drinks or been doing drugs, step up. Don't do it. Don't chance it. Be responsible. Impaired driver, call us. Get a designated driver. Call 911 right away. Cab. Somebody you suspect is an impaired driver, call us. If somebody's had this is not a new initiative. This is the counterattack campaign that's been going on for decades. Be responsible. However, we ramp it up during the summertime. Obviously, the summer months, this is an amazing place to be. Everybody's out having fun. It's patio season. People are going to the beach. People are doing maybe a little bit more outside. However, we ramp it up during the summertime. So it has been ongoing for, obviously, the counterattack program has been in existence for an amazing place to be. Everybody's out having fun. It's patio season. It is, yes. People are going pardon me? However, we ramp it up. We're actually not seeing a lot of drivers. We're not taking a lot of drivers off the road for marijuana impairment. The vast majority of the drivers that we did suspend were from alcohol impairment just this past weekend, and that's consistent with what we've seen. We're actually not seeing a lot of drivers. We're not taking a lot of drivers off the road for marijuana impairment. The vast majority of the drivers that we I don't have specific information on alcohol impairment just this past weekend, and that's consistent with which actually not seeing a lot of drivers are impaired by. What I can tell you is just this past weekend, the vast majority of the drivers that we I don't have specific information on tell you that past weekend, and that's consistent with which actually not seeing a lot of drivers are impaired by. What I can tell you is just this past weekend, the vast majority of the drivers that we haven't noticed a significant increase in tell you that any significant changes as a result. Which actually not seeing a lot of drivers are impaired by. What I can tell you. No, and maybe I should rephrase that a little bit. I mean, attitudes change. We learn, we grow as a society and as a community, and things that were once acceptable are not acceptable anymore. Unfortunately, there are still people who try to chance it, who think they can get away with it, and we want them to know that they're not going to. Okay, moving on. I'm going to talk about another distraction theft. Distraction thefts are. If you're not familiar with them, they're things that we've been dealing with for quite some time in the city, and every once in a while they pop up and become more problematic. We recently had one in an East Vancouver neighborhood where a 77-year-old woman was minding her own business gardening in her backyard, and she was approached by a couple of people who drove up in an SUV, and a female suspect got out of the SUV and approached this elderly woman in her yard. And despite the victim protesting and telling the person to go away, the suspect tried to put some jewelry on her with costume jewelry, shoved some jewelry into her hands. And in the process, we believe that the suspect was able to remove a gold bracelet from the victim's wrist. The victim didn't realize this until sometime later when a family member returned home and had a conversation with her family member, and it became apparent that this is exactly what had happened. So this is a concern for us. It happens every once in a while in the city, and we want people to know that it is happening, to call us if it does happen, and take some steps to safeguard against being victimized. These are the people who do distraction thefts are sly, they're sneaky. The way they find success is by kind of overwhelming their victims and confusing them. And typically what will happen is they will approach somebody in a public place with some jewelry and confront them and try to get them to wear the jewelry, where they're putting the jewelry on their head or slipping it over their neck or onto their wrists. And in the process of doing that, they will very subtly remove a piece of valuable jewelry that's on the victim's body, whether it's a ring or a bracelet or a necklace. And typically what happens is before the victim realizes that this has happened, the suspects are long gone. So we want to remind people to just be aware that that's happening, to call us right away if you're approached by anybody who appears to be involved in a distraction theft, and report it to us, or if anybody has any information about this particular incident, to give us a call. I'm just going to give you a little bit more information about what did happen this past weekend. It occurred on July 20th around 11 a.m. It was in the city's Cedar Cottage neighborhood, roughly in the area of Grandview and Renfrew Street. As I said, the victim was she's an elderly woman. She's gardening in her backyard, and a couple of people show up in an SUV. Woman gets out of the SUV and approaches the woman in her backyard with some jewelry and tries to get the victim to put on the jewelry. The victim does the right thing and says, "No, please leave. I don't want to have anything to do with you. Get away." But during the confusion and the confrontation, the suspect was able to take a bracelet off of the victim's hand. The suspects in this case were driving a dark-colored four-door SUV. The female suspect was between 35 and 45 years old. She was about 5'3" and had brown shoulder-length hair and olive skin. She wore a dark floral-patterned dress and had bright red nail polish. Her male accomplice, we believe, remained in the vehicle, described as a male who appeared South Asian, with darker skin, had a black baseball cap on, and a polo shirt. Detectives from our major crime section are now investigating this and want to speak to anybody who has any information. Does anybody have any questions on that one?
Is it jewelry that's always targeted in these types of
Typically
instances? Like, do they go for a wallet or?
No, it's typically jewelry. This isn't like a pickpocket or anything like that. These thieves will target people who are in public who are visibly wearing jewelry. Typically, one or two will approach the victim and kind of overwhelm them by invading their personal space, talking to them, and catching them by surprise. And during the process, they will offer to put jewelry on the victim's, whether it's over the victim's neck, if it's a necklace, or on their hands or on their wrist. And in doing so, they subtly remove a piece of valuable jewelry that the victim is wearing, and then they leave. And it's often sometime later before the victim even realizes that they've been scammed and they've had this their jewelry stolen.
I believe in the past the thieves targeting Italian-speaking seniors or South Asian seniors. Is that the same case here?
So, sorry, I just want to make sure I understood what you said. You think in the past people have been targeting seniors and
in the
Italian-speaking member? This is the kind of crime that can target anybody in our community. However, seniors are can be particularly vulnerable to this kind of offense. People who do speak second languages could possibly be particularly vulnerable. Simply because of the language barrier and the confusion that can be created by having these people approach in such an invasive matter.
Are these suspects the same as the ones from previous cases?
This matches the MO of previous distraction thefts that we've had in the city, yes. I don't know if these are the same suspects that have committed previous distraction thefts, but it certainly matches the MO.
And
What
do
should
people
somebody
do?
be doing? You know, this seems like she was in her, personal space, and she
Yep.
did the right thing by saying no.
She did exactly what she should have done. Yeah.
They still kind of force. So, I mean, what would somebody at this point?
Don't let anybody invade your personal space. Tell anybody who tries to give you jewelry to get lost. Be assertive. Tell them that you're not interested. Call us right away, and so we can investigate and we can get on it. Anybody
In
have?
this case, does it have any CCTV footage from the?
That's obviously part of the investigation. This matter is still under investigation by our major crime section. So there are a number of investigative steps that are taken in any investigation, and as part of that, we'll be looking for things like video witnesses, anybody who has any information. And that's one of the reasons why I'm here today, is to ask you guys to help us get out the message that we're looking for anybody that has any information. A lot of people do have cameras, security cameras around their houses now, or businesses. People may have seen something in the area that's not, that didn't fit in, and we want to hear from those people. Thanks, everyone.
Can I just go back to the homicide?
Oh, yeah, sure.
The murder charge?
Sure.
So, I mean, it only really happened a couple of weeks ago. You guys already have somebody arrested, charged. So, it seems fairly quick in the scheme of investigations. Was there something that happened that made you guys find him so quickly?
So every investigation is unique, and there's no template for how long or short an investigation should unfold. Our investigators follow the pattern of evidence and lead that trail of evidence will lead them to the successful conclusion of the investigation. In this case, I can't speak about specifics of this investigation, just out of the integrity of the investigation, because it's before the courts. I want to respect the court process. We're obviously pleased and satisfied that this investigation was able to come to a successful conclusion so quickly, because it was obviously a matter of great public interest, and we're pleased to bring some closure to that.
Right. And so when was he charged? When was he arrested?
The arrest occurred this week, and the charges were laid. The charges were approved this morning.
And was he arrested without incident?
Yes, I believe so. I don't believe there were any complications with the arrest.
And you can't speak to motive or whether he was disgruntled?
No. I can tell you that the suspect was a former employee. Can't get into motive, any details of the investigation, just out of respect for the integrity of the investigation.
And I'm sure you've been in touch with family. What's been their reaction?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, we've been in touch with the family throughout the investigation and have been updating the family on the investigation, providing support. It's not my place to speak for the family. Okay, thank you.